Hey everyone, welcome back to mycuncensored's Women in STEM podcast series. Today I'm joined by Jena Bathan, a very knowledgeable and curious computer science student at the University of Wollongong, who speaks about the challenges she has overcome within the tech space. So without further ado, let's get into it. Amazing. What is your occupation? A little bit about yourself, and what would you say some of your contributions are to a very male-dominated field?
All right. So let's start off with who I am. So hi, I am Jenna Marie Bathan, but to make things easier, you can just call me Jenna. And I'm an international student, actually. I came from the Philippines and I came to Australia in 2024 to study here. So yeah, that was a very big decision for me, but I do not regret it at all. I'm in my final year, actually. I'm doing my bachelor's of computer science. I'm under the Dean Scholar program, and I'm also currently majoring in software engineering. And I am currently working as a software development intern at Synapta. So, what I would say my contributions are to the very male-dominated field? I would like to start off by saying that I think ever since that I was a kid, I always knew that I was going to be in STEM. And there's just some kind of innocence when you're a kid that you don't really understand like the world struggles and such. So I didn't really think about back then like, oh, there's like a lot of guys that are pursuing engineering majors and stuff. I didn't really think about that at all. I just saw that, okay, I think maths and sciences are pretty cool and I want to do something in relation to that. So ever since I was a kid, I've just been doing that. The one thing that I always say in interviews is that my very first experience that really solidified why I wanted to take the path that I have right now is basically I was tinkering around with a random video game that I found on the internet. I went through the code and then decided that, okay, I kind of want to put my own spin to this video game and I want to go ahead and do whatever it is. And it was just like a random activity I had that I just wanted to do it, but a lot of teachers saw my potential when I showed them what I did. And ever since then, they were like, okay, I think you have an eye for this. So yeah, and then but then like as I grew older, and especially now since that I came to Australia, I'm the same as you. I had only, if not, I had a majority, if like not only STEM subjects when I was in high school. I chose a very specific pathway in high school. In the Philippines, it's like that. You have the option to do either STEM, humanities, business majors. I chose STEM, of course. So that was a lot of math, that was a lot of coding, that was a lot of programming, and I didn't really experience the pre I think it was in my final year of high school that I really experienced the pressure. And especially now in university, I would say the same as you. I enter my lecture classes, I enter my workshops. I remember there's one class I entered, I was the only girl in there. So yeah, that's definitely a struggle that I have right now. But what I would say my contribution is in like a male-dominated field, I guess I would say that I never really thought of my gender as a hindrance, I would say. As I said before, back when I was a kid, I didn't really think about it. I just said that, okay, I wanted to do something in STEM, and ever since then I didn't really care about, oh, there's going to be a lot of guys in here. There's going to be I might be the only girl here. I definitely thought of that. But at the end of the day, there will be, I will say this, there will be people who will discriminate you for being young, for being a woman, and then especially like if you're like me, I always enter my classroom in like outfits. Like I love makeup, I love outfits. I'm an absolutely feminine, girly girl, and there will be people who will judge you just from your looks. But the one thing that I will always say is that when you show who you are, how smart you are, how good you are at doing everything that you do, no one will be able to utter a word about you. And that's what I would say like my contribution is that you can be fully yourself when you know that you bring something to the room. That's what I would say. I can go into detail about that later, but that's what I can say for now. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's very, very valuable. I think definitely having that confidence in yourself is very important. So what would you say? So you did say that you're studying computer science in university and also software engineering. So I guess I'm curious about what was your passion in finding that, what was your story in finding that passion and ultimately pursuing what you're studying in university right now?
Yeah. So I was a kid, as a kid, I was like very indecisive of what I wanted to do. I did mention that I found my passion through tinkering like a video game, but I did a lot of stuff back in high school. I was in a lot of stuff. I was in Glee Club, I was in theater club, I was ice skating. I was doing all of this stuff, and then eventually people could not figure out what I actually wanted to do in life because of the amount of stuff that I wanted to do. And I actually didn't know until my final year. I was very set on, I applied to different universities, and for every university, I had a different program under it. So I applied to Philippine universities. I applied for mining engineering, civil engineering, some economics, pre-law, stuff like that, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I think at some point in my senior year of high school, I was pretty set on doing civil engineering because I just wanted to do something with math because mathematics is my strongest subject. But then I figured that I think it was when I had physics. I love math, but I absolutely hate physics. It's a very I have a very strong dislike for physics. And then ever since then, I just realized that okay, I don't think I would want to have a job that would require a lot of this subject. And civil engineering, in specifically, is something that involves a lot of that. But then I realized that I still wanted to do something about engineering because I kind of like gave my life in pursuit of mathematics. As a child, I've been in multiple math competitions, and it's just something that I've been very focused on. So I was like, okay, what can I pursue that has this? And it all came back to when I had a coding project to do in my final year of high school. We were required to do an educational video game. And then all of my group, I was in a group of three girls. Those two girls were going to be pursuing medicine, and they did not know a lot about coding. So I was kind of like the leader of the group because they knew that they could rely on me because of my knowledge of coding. And then yeah, we decided, and because they were doing medicine, I was like, okay, we can do a game about medicine. So we did like a mystery game that uses biology to identify clues. And I coded that in C sharp if I remember. And then when my professor saw that, he was very impressed because I went past what he taught us because I wanted to learn more about like okay, I wanted to do a certain thing about this game. I want to put animations, I want to put graphics. These were stuff that he didn't teach us before, but I added that in. And then ever since then and then similar to what I did back then with the video game, he told me that okay, I think you're doing pretty good at this. And ever since then I researched more about computer science, and I found myself very interested in it. And when I received my results in the Philippine universities, as I mentioned before, I applied for civil engineering, mining engineering, all that engineering. I rejected all those universities despite being accepted, and I decided to move to Australia. And then I applied for computer science, and that's where I am right now.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Actually, a point you touched on that I actually didn't know was that you said that computer science didn't really include too much physics because I did physics in school as well, and yeah, it was a bit of a drag a little bit. But I thought that computer science had a lot of physics theories in it. So is it more math?
Yes, I would say it's more math. Because what I think the thing about physics is that it relies a lot with like
Actual
motion.
application? Yeah.
Yeah, So that's why it's important in civil engineering because you're going to be dealing with a lot of like real life structures.
Mm-hmm.
There is definitely physics in computer science. I have definitely had that in some of my classes. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, this again. But I would say that it's much easier than what you would have in civil engineering, I
Okay.
would say,
Hmm.
or in any kind of like, there's a lot in any other kind of engineering. I have a friend that's in aerospace engineering and then they're also like dealing with a lot of physics. So anything that I would say like involves structure and motion would involve a lot of physics. But computer science is more of like teaching mathematics and algorithms to computers. So what you're focusing more on that is like mathematical algorithms. I would say it's a lot of like calculus, a lot of general mathematics, um, rather than um, rather than like physics that involves motion and structure or trigonometry, which involves a lot of shapes. So all of those will definitely come up depending on what you are studying. So for example, if somehow you have a coding project that involves like an engineer like a civil engineering company, of course there's going to be physics in there, and I personally have done a project that was like that. It was a bit of a drag for me but I managed. But yeah, it really depends on what you're focusing on. I'm personally just focusing on software development, and that is a lot more of algorithms, and I absolutely love algorithms, so that's something I'm comfortable with. So yeah.
Yeah, okay, very interesting. Um, so next question is, what would you say your biggest challenges are as a woman in STEM?
Okay. So biggest challenges. I said before that I do present myself in a certain way, that I'm very feminine, and then I enter a room and then there's just like a bunch of guys in the same hoodies, backpack, pants. When you see a computer science student in the wild, you would immediately identify them as a computer science student by the way that they dress. And I guess I'm kind of out of the norm for that because I enter the room, I'm in a mini skirt, I'm in a tank top, I have like high boots that I always wear. And then people would always ask me, why do I wear those high boots every day? So yeah, that's definitely something that I guess it wasn't like such a big struggle because back then, again, it didn't matter at all. I didn't really care. Like that's how I presented myself. That's how I presented myself. But then I guess a lot of it came when I was in high school. So of course, I was in a really good school back in the Philippines. I transferred to Manila, which is like the capital region, which was the capital region of the Philippines, despite being in the province. And that was definitely a big change because I was exposed to like smarter people, I would say. And then all of the subjects that I was taking when I moved to the capital region were harder. And then I was I would say that I wouldn't say that I was dumb, but I felt really dumb because that I was surrounded with all of these amazing, smart people. And then I just felt kind of behind because I feel like everyone is so good and there's just me in there. And then I would always enter class like with makeup, with my hairstyle and stuff. So, of course, there were people who definitely questioned that. And there are a lot of people that will question you and then that's when I realized like when you grow up, a lot of people will question you for being a woman. Not even when you're doing anything. Like a lot of people will question what you do when you're a woman. And then I think like one of the most impactful things that I said, I finalized my decision. I told my friends that I'm going to be pursuing computer science. And one of my friends, who is now not my friend, laughed at my face. He was a guy, by the way. He was like, "You, computer science." And it was like, "That's crazy. Like, I don't think you can do that." That definitely like took a toll on me because I was just wondering, why did people think I was incapable of it? And I've proven myself many times in the past. I was a consistent honor student. My final GPA in school was a very good grade, and I excelled in like most of my classes, but there was still like a lot of doubt. There was still a lot of doubt. And then when you enter university, and then you're the only woman in your engineering classes, that definitely makes some that definitely like put something in your mind like, okay. But I realized that, but then I realized that it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Because there will always be people who will because there will always be people who think lowly of you, no matter what you do. And it won't be just because of your gender. It can be because you're young. Like when you're young, a lot of old people will say that you don't know this, you don't know that. It can be because you're a woman, because oh, like women are more sensitive to stuff and stuff like that. There will always be people who will be doubting you. But as I said before, the one thing that you need to do is just bring what you can to the table. Because I remember like when I had my first presentation, when I had like one of my very first presentations in class, I had to present like an app that we made. So I had like we had like a food waste management app, and I was like the lead designer for that application. And we presented that. It was so good. And it was so good. And then even the professor said that that was one of the best presentations that he has ever seen in that class. And ever since then, especially in my final year, like a lot of students wanted to group up with me because they know me from that specific instance. And then when I talk with other people, they're like, "Oh, you're the one who always like raises their hand." They like in classes, like you're the student that always knows what the answer is. So at the end of the day, all of those stuff would not matter if you know who you are. And so I feel like I'm very settled. I'm very settled with what I have right now. I don't really think about, oh, I'm a woman. I'm a woman. I'm like, I'm too dumb. I'm like, I'm too young. I don't know any of that stuff. Because you won't know everything in life. That's the thing. And something that I learned recently in this year is that I always want to become the dumbest person in the room. And that sounds crazy, but I recently learned that I feel like the reason why I'm so confident right now and the reason why I've grown so much and like know all of this stuff is because I was in places where I was the dumbest in the room. In the classroom, there were people smarter than me. In the workplace, in my current workplace, I work as an intern, and there are people smarter than me. And that's a good thing. And that's a good thing. You don't need to know everything because it's impossible to know everything. You don't need to know everything. But like you will know step by step if you're surrounded with like great people who will teach you what you need to know. So, yeah, I think I've said a lot. So, yeah, that's what I would like to
No,
say.
no, no, absolutely though. I think the company you keep is very, very important. And I 100% understand the idea of being the dumbest person in the room because you'd rather, I guess, surround yourself with people who uplift you rather than drag you down. So that's very, very important. I guess you've definitely touched on this, but what would you say the most exciting parts of the career or I guess the subject you've decided to study in university is?
Okay. So again, I think like a big part of rather I did say that I was a very STEM girl ever since, but one thing is that I've always loved design. I've been like a big artsy girl. I do digital art, I do graphic design, I paint, I draw. And then that's something that I decided to bring and that's something that I decided to bring when I was in university. So I guess one of my favorite subjects in university was human computer interaction, and just hearing that it sounds very technical. And then when I first heard about that, I thought we were going to be working with robots or something, but it was more of learning what is pleasing to the human eye and like how we develop our current gadgets and technology based on what is like most helpful to humans. So like a very fun fact, like one of the reasons why Apple is the most successful is simply for the reason that it's the most aesthetically pleasing. So there's like a study about that. Like for example, Microsoft, Linux, there's like hundreds of these existing applications, but like why is Apple like one of the ones that are leading the industry? And that's because they know the design that makes people want to buy them, that makes people want to use their products. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people in computer science, and sorry about this, specifically guys who don't understand the importance of design because actually here's the thing, like there is like two different kinds. There's two different kinds of like developers. There's front end, there's back end, and then there's people who do both of that. I'm aiming to be both of that, but like right now I'm on front end, which is more of like designing the interfaces and stuff. And there's like a lot of discrimination on that because it's fairly easy, they would say. But oh my God, when you see what these guys present to class, they have the, I would say like they have the best features. They have features that you haven't even thought of before. But when you look at it, it's not pleasing to the eye. It's not accessible to people at all. And that's something that that's something that a lot of students don't consider. So, knowing what I learned about graphic design, knowing what I have about what I had in the past, I definitely put that in my studies as well. And actually, the very reason why I was hired by the company that I was working in, they said, Jenna, I think we need your creativity for this one. And yeah, so definitely just like I just like learned what my strengths are. I apply that in university, and then eventually that same creativity landed me a job. So yeah, I would say I do have like a couple of other favorites, which is like cybersecurity and um mathematics for programming. But yeah, I think that's like one of the most significant ones I have.
Absolutely. No, I definitely think those are definitely important points. And I think understanding the value of each member on the team is very important. And I feel like in a, I guess, field or um an environment that's so competitive, it's very easy to, I guess, diminish someone else's work. Especially in a field like computer science, where everyone just like go, go, go. Appreciating other people's efforts and work is definitely important. So I think that was very interesting. And my final question to you is, if you could speak to your younger self or speak to younger girls, or the next generation of women in STEM, is there any advice or words of wisdom you would give them? And if so, what would it be?
So yeah, it's just very similar to what I say, to what I've been saying before, is that the fact that you're a woman, do not ever let that bring you down. I did not let that fact bring me down. I used to be completely oblivious to it. I didn't know what was happening before. I didn't know about the concepts of misogyny and stuff. I was just like chilling. I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna do whatever I want. I don't really care what other people say. And then if people say that I'm dumb, like then what? So it's just kind of like that. But I just want to say that I haven't always been like this. I was a very anxious girl. I still am. And then there's like when I was a kid, I had a lot of self-doubt. I was insecure about everything because I was surrounded by all of these great people and I was like, how am I going to keep up? There are people greater than me. There are people smarter than me. The very thing that I want to say is that you're never going to be the greatest. Let's accept that. You're never going to be like the smartest person in the world. You're never going to be the greatest person in the world. You're never going to be like the most amazing engineer there is known to man. It could be possible, but let's accept that fact first. And that's okay. And like, and that's okay. You don't need to be that person. What you need to do is just find out what you're best at and make sure that you know what to do with that. And then if there are like a lot of girls right now that are doubting that if they want to get into a STEM profession because there are too many guys, the market is too competitive, as long as you know what your strengths are, none of that would matter. Always pursue what you're going to want because if you're going to pursue something that you don't want, at the end of the day, it's just going to drain you. Like no matter what it is, even if it's not like a STEM sub if it's not a STEM subject, if you're deciding to pursue something that you don't really want just for the sake of like I would say like money or stuff like that, it's not going to work out. So just completely ignore what people are telling you. And then if you think that you're the dumbest person in the room, that's good because you're going to grow. You're surrounded with so many great people. Learn from them, connect with them, network with them. I've been so privileged to be part of like so many women-led events. A lot of the networking events that I attend are like completely led by women, and I'm so grateful that a lot of them are so supportive. It's such a supportive community. And once you find that community, it's going to like really work out for you. So, of course, still like embrace the stress, embrace like all of the problems that you're experiencing. High school was very stressful for me. Arguably, I feel like high school was more stressful than uni. But yeah, that stress is completely okay. The things that you hear right now are completely okay. Do not ever let that bring you down. Just completely ignore whatever and just pursue what you want. That's what I would like to say.
Yeah, amazing. Absolutely. And I think that's very important, especially for females who I guess don't feel super confident. And it's always good to have that reassuring mindset. So that was the interview. Is there anything else you would like to add, even though you definitely answered every question very, very, very nicely?
Um, I think I pretty much said everything, but like specifically to you, like what you're doing right now, that's a very good thing. I've been there before. Like I've been there before and I'm still here. Like in my current company, there was a meeting and I think I was the only girl there. Yeah, do not just like that's a good thing. If you think that something isn't working out for you or like you feel like you're stuck on something, that's a good thing because opportunities like that you will learn and you will grow and that's completely fine. So yeah. It was really great. Yeah, it was really great to have this. I think I wanted to say like a lot of this stuff because I've just kind of been bottling it up. I have a lot of frustrations, but yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for your time and your answers. They're very, very valuable. Once I've uploaded the podcast, I will send you the link to the recording. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. And if you have any other things you wanted to add, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much. Have a great afternoon. Bye.
Thank you.